A post claiming that the Seattle Storm owner shouted at a teenage girl because she was holding a pro-Sophie Cunningham sign has been spreading across basketball Twitter for the past 2 days. The fan was reportedly ordered to put the sign away and ended up leaving the arena in tears. This isn't just another overhyped rumor making the rounds online either. Once you take a closer look at what allegedly took place courtside in Seattle, the full story turns out to be even more disturbing than the headline suggests. And it reveals far more about the current direction of the league than the final score of any single game ever could.
Like that, and then she told us that we were effing insane.
And she's like, and she went like this.
Yeah.
She was like, you better stop this
and stop pulling
this.
Yeah.
And
for you guys
I
to
hope
come
God
here
can
and
save
pull
you.
this. Yeah.
She said, for you to come here and pull this shit?
Yeah.
She said the word? Yeah. Did she say effing insane or?
No, she said the word.
Nobody around you spoke up for you.
No. So,
I will say, Annalie, when I came over, you were in tears.
yeah, I've been yelled at like that. I mean, I've had people hate on me on the internet, but like, it doesn't really affect me as much because it's just people online, but that just took me by surprise because I thought she was gonna be nice, and then she started like screaming at us.
A teenage girl showed up to a WNBA game carrying a sign. It wasn't insulting anyone. It didn't target or criticize any player by name. It simply thanked Sophie Cunningham for standing up for girls in sports. But according to fans who were sitting nearby, a Seattle Storm co-owner walked directly over to her during the game and demanded that she put the sign away, right in front of a sold-out crowd. By the time the situation ended, the young girl was crying and security had become involved. Think about that for a moment. A grown adult, someone who actually owns part of a professional sports franchise, confronted a child at a basketball game simply because of the sign she chose to hold.
In that same vein, in that story with ESPN, you talked about wanting to protect young girls who shouldn't have to go against biological men. Just can you expand your viewpoint on that?
I mean, I think I said what I said. I think it's kind of common sense. And I think I'll always believe in that. I think it's really important to protect children, and that's little girls who are also involved in that category. And so I stand on what I said, and I always believe that.
Yeah, do you see your advocacy on that, like, taking any form going forward?
You know, I don't know. I'm not a very political person, but I do have beliefs. I have morals, and I'll always stand on those and be true to who I am. And I think people are going to take it how they want to take it, but I've never even really said anything about that. And so when it comes just to protecting young girls in sport and women in sport, I feel very strongly about that. I think that's why you have Title IX. That's why you have some of the greats in women's sports. If Title IX and women's sports were protected, then you wouldn't hear about any type of women in sport. And so I think in the future, it's just really important to protect.
Do you think, I guess, along the line like that, it goes against perhaps, some people might say, hey, for the trans community, this could be something that could come back on us or be targeted against us. Like, how do you view that sort of critique?
You know, like I said, I extend love, and I don't dislike anyone. Like, I think there is room for absolutely everyone here, and I think there's room to love everyone.
Just weeks earlier, Sophie Cunningham took part in an ESPN feature interview where she was asked a direct question about protecting women's sports. She didn't avoid the topic, and she didn't try to water down her answer to make it more acceptable. Instead, she spoke clearly, saying that she wants to protect young girls in locker rooms, that they should not have to compete against biological men, and that she will continue to stand by that belief regardless of the criticism or backlash it may bring.
How the left is completely intolerant and the actual hateful. This woman is not an owner of a basketball team. She's an owner of a left-wing, radical, political activist group that happens to play basketball. Because this team has endorsed Kamala Harris for president. They have promoted trans rights on their website and their merchandise. And clearly, they hold a double standard and allow people to hold signs like this, but belittle young girls that support their sport remaining female. I don't expect them to do this, but I would really like to see the WNBA protect and stand up for fans just like these two young girls from hate and intolerance.
There were no insults in her response. She didn't take shots at a teammate, an opponent, or any individual. She simply gave a straightforward answer to a straightforward question, speaking calmly and thoughtfully, like someone who had carefully considered her position rather than reacting on impulse. But whether Sophie Cunningham mentioned anyone by name or not, her comments quickly became tied to a much larger debate, because in this league, context rarely remains neutral for very long.
Yeah, I think it has been so fun. I played with BG for 6 years, and so I know her like the back of my hand. And as of late, she's been playing really good. She's been playing like OG Brittney. I'm there to love, but I'm also there to love biological women, and I think that there are rights that need to be protected. And like I said, I'm going to stand true to that. I'll never falter in my beliefs in that, but I have never once said I hated the trans community. Like I said, I think there's space for everyone.
Anyone who has watched a Fever game against the Connecticut Sun this season already knows who many fans immediately connected those comments to. Brittney Griner and Caitlin Clark have been at the center of heated on-court debates for several seasons, with fans pointing to hard fouls that went uncalled, a controversial bench incident from last year that people still analyze frame by frame, and what they believe has been a recurring pattern of officiating whenever those matchups took place. So when Cunningham, Clark's closest teammate and one of her strongest defenders on the roster, stated that men should not be competing in women's sports, many fans felt the message spoke for itself. No one needed an explanation to understand why people were drawing connections, because the timing alone fueled the conversation.
Some fans at the game booed Cunningham when she checked into the game. One Seattle Storm player even showed up pre-game wearing a shirt that read, "Trans rights are human rights." After the game, Storm coach Sonia Rahman was asked about the situation.
Seattle and this organization and Climate Pledge, we always want to be an area where people feel welcome coming into this building. I think we've always done a really good job with that. So I know our organization was, working closely with Climate Pledge and with security to just make sure that, everybody feels safe and included and welcome when they walk in this door. And from what I understand that.
Brittney Griner has never directly responded to the idea that Cunningham's remarks were specifically directed at her. What she did say in a separate interview, just days before the controversy gained momentum, was that playing against Cunningham is annoying as crap, while also admitting that she would gladly have her as a teammate. You can interpret those comments however you like. But once Cunningham's statements began circulating online, the response was anything but minor, and it didn't take long before the discussion spread across the basketball world.
You do have Sophie Cunningham, a female athlete herself, very accomplished in her own right, coming forth and speaking that truth that men shouldn't play in women's sports. We want to protect women and girls, and the backlash she is receiving from Democrats and left-wing figures across the country is astonishing.
Within roughly 48 hours, the story had spread everywhere. USA Today covered it, ESPN discussed it across several programs the following morning, and Fox News devoted an entire national segment to the topic. Even the White House press secretary publicly commented, saying that Cunningham was on the side of an issue that many Americans already support, regardless of whether the league welcomed that perspective. That is far from the kind of response you would expect after a WNBA role player gave an honest answer during a feature interview. It had grown into a nationwide debate that reached well beyond the basketball community, and Sophie Cunningham never appeared to expect the situation to escalate the way it ultimately did.
Can't applaud her enough. This notion that you're hating on the trans community because you are not a proponent of them participating in female sports is utterly ridiculous. Sophie Cunningham said every word right on the money. There's no hate involved. There's only love we're talking about. But what happened to loving girls who are born biologically as girls? What about their rights? What about fairness associated to them? Leah Thomas, I'm going to keep bringing that name up. 400th plus in the world competing as a male. Transitions to female, and he was number one. If we're gonna act like transitioning from male to female doesn't involve an advantage for that trans athlete, I have nothing to say to you. You're not exercising.
What happened next is the part that deserves the most attention because it's what truly sets Cunningham apart from many athletes who have found themselves in similar situations. A few days later, reporters questioned her again, seemingly expecting her to backtrack, reframe her comments, or tone them down into something less direct and less controversial. She did none of that. Instead, she repeated her position almost word for word and added that she doesn't hate anyone, that she believes there is room for everyone, but that she isn't going to abandon what she genuinely believes simply because others disagree with it. That isn't the response of someone trying to stir up controversy for attention. It's the response of someone who answered a fair question honestly and refused to act like she never meant it once the criticism started pouring in.
Week and talks about her beliefs, which I do think is very rare, especially being as young as she is, and quite honestly being brave to share something she knows is going to get picked apart a million times, and then standing by it. That's refreshing, especially from a young.
And that's where the story shifts to Seattle, because this is the moment it stopped being just another online debate and became something that reportedly happened to a real child at a live game, right in front of people who witnessed it unfold. On Tuesday night, the Fever traveled to face the Storm in what should have been a game focused entirely on basketball. Before tip-off, a small group of supporters gathered outside Climate Pledge Arena. Some were there to show support for Cunningham, while others were promoting a Washington ballot measure centered on fairness in girls' athletics that has been gaining attention across the state. A few held signs, while others wore shirts featuring the XX and XY chromosome symbols. None of the displays were directed at any specific Storm player. Instead, they focused on Cunningham, the broader discussion sparked by her comments weeks earlier, and an ongoing policy debate that has continued to grow far beyond the views of a single WNBA player. One of those fans eventually made it inside the arena and took a courtside seat while holding a sign that simply thanked Cunningham for speaking up for girls. According to Brandy Cruz of Undivided, who spoke with the fans after the incident, a woman approached them during the game and reportedly called both them and their sign completely unhinged before having security remove them from their seats. The fans later identified the woman as Sophie Cunningham, a minority owner of the Seattle Storm. One of the fans said she was already in tears before the encounter had even ended, shaken by how quickly what was supposed to be an enjoyable night at a basketball game became an upsetting and deeply personal confrontation.
There's signs that said like, we love Sophie, like, thank you Sophie for speaking up. And so we were holding on to watching the game. Again, like, we were being super great. We hadn't said anything to anyone else. We were being super respectful. We were just holding our signs and cheering for both teams. And this lady, older lady, comes up to us. And she comes up to us, and at first I think she's gonna be nice, and then she asks like, what are you guys doing? Something like that. And then it was like, Jesus loves everyone. That's what she told us. And I was like, oh, I know. Like, I'm religious. Like, I know. Like, I know. Nice. Yeah. And she's like, oh, I hope Jesus can forgive you for what sin you've done. And, like, something like that. And then she told us that we were effing insane. And she's like, and she went like this. Yeah. Like, you better stop this. And stop pulling this.
Now consider the imbalance at the center of this entire situation. Outside the arena, people had gathered representing different viewpoints on the same issue, and no one from the organization reportedly approached those on the other side of the demonstration or asked them to stop expressing their opinions. They had every right to make their views known. Likewise, no one is arguing that anyone should be prevented from wearing or displaying what they choose while entering the arena. But a teenage fan quietly holding a simple thank you sign for a player on the visiting team was reportedly confronted by a co-owner of the home franchise and instructed to put it away in front of thousands of spectators.
Crazy idea on Thursday that I wanted to support Sophie. We've gone all around California supporting female athletes, and I just said, we can in Seattle, and we can support female athletes. And Brandy was right there, ready to help us. And thank you all for showing up. We just have simple belief that women are adult human females, and women deserve their own female-only sports and spaces, especially prisons and domestic violence shelters. We are higher nation.
So ask yourself the obvious question. If a sign that simply read, "Thank you for speaking up for girls," was enough for a fan to reportedly be confronted by a member of the team's ownership, while a shirt expressing the opposing view in the same debate received applause from the crowd, what does that suggest about where the organization stands? The sign wasn't offensive, and it didn't single out or criticize any player on the Storm roster. Its only message was support for Sophie Cunningham. Later, majority owner Jenny Gilder released a statement acknowledging that a co-owner had spoken to two fans and apologized for the incident, saying that everyone attending a Storm game deserves to feel welcome regardless of their beliefs. But notice what the statement did not address. It did not identify Sophie Cunningham by name, it did not explain exactly what was said during the interaction, and it offered no explanation for why a co-owner reportedly confronted paying fans over a sign in the first place or whether any meaningful accountability would follow. Instead, the statement came across as the kind of carefully crafted response designed to calm the controversy rather than fully explain what allegedly happened that night.
I apologize for the way I looked. I literally just left CrossFit. Don't have any recording material here, but breaking news. Storm co-owner Celeste Keaton was fined and suspended from attending the next 5 home games of the Seattle Storm following the incident with Fever fans last night, in which she made a comment about one of their players' support. That came directly from the league. So that's the latest on the developing. So.
And that's really the core of this entire story once you remove all the surrounding noise. Sophie Cunningham didn't do anything that would reasonably justify what followed. She answered a question honestly, stood by her words when the pressure and criticism came, and then watched as a teenage fan was reportedly treated like a problem simply for publicly expressing support for her. No fan should be confronted by a team owner over a shirt or a sign at a basketball game, regardless of which side of the debate they support. The fact that the reported confrontation involved fans backing Cunningham has led many people to question whether different viewpoints are being treated equally in certain parts of the league.
Sophie Cunningham, who's willing to stand 10 toes down. And Sophie Cunningham was quoted as saying, "I want to protect young girls in a locker room or young girls in sports who shouldn't have to go against biological men." I didn't know if he knows the fucking vote. Like, she's such a fucking bird. Biological men should not be playing in sports with biological men, period. End of discussion. It shouldn't be controversial. It shouldn't be a cause for debate. It shouldn't be labeled transphobia because you don't want to have to compete with people who were born biological men and have biological advantages that women will never have and never be able to have for the rest of their life. I always ask the question, why do we never see, like, biological women transitioning to be men and playing in men's sports? Why? Why don't we ever see that? Why is it always biological men transitioning to women coming over to play with women?
This also didn't happen in isolation, which is one of the biggest reasons the story has continued to spread. It came about a week after another WNBA player was quietly moved into a reduced role, with noticeably fewer minutes shortly after her own comments about protecting women's sports began making headlines around the league. Nothing was ever officially linked, and no public explanation clearly connected the two situations. Instead, it was a series of subtle developments, a carefully worded statement here, a reduced role there. On their own, none of them necessarily prove anything, but together they have fueled speculation among some fans that players expressing certain views may face quiet pressure without anyone ever having to openly say it inside a locker room.